All righty, 10:04 The Fan. What's going on, everybody? It's the Tiki and Tierney Show. Steve Cohen. Getting ready to do a little chatting, a little fireside chat today.
BT, what is he going to say?
Okay. To me, I boil it down to one of two things. Number one, he's either speaking to the players to jumpstart them, to inspire, to get this thing back on the rails. That's one option, though I don't actually think that's what it is.
My initial gut is that's exactly what it is.
Oh, wow.
But keep going.
Okay, the other option, and this is what I actually think it's about, is that he is speaking to you, the Mets fan, and he's trying to placate you. But when you do that, and reassure you, when you do that, you have to deliver. And, if Steve Cohen comes, let me tell you, he'd be better off not speaking. If tonight's going to be about, I 100% back up Buck, Billy's my general manager, I have full belief in this team. If that's what he's preparing to say, he'd be better off saying nothing. Honestly, because to me, that would be almost more deflating to the fans than reassuring and galvanizing.
So yesterday, when we heard that Steve Cohen was going to speak today, before this game, they announced it before yesterday's game, that Stevie Cohen was going to speak before today's game. In my mind, I said, oh, wow, this is a must-win for Buck Showalter.
Yep.
Buck Showalter better not go out there. This team better not go out there and lay an egg and be embarrassed against with this expectation coming ahead of him. And then they find a way to win the game. And so it kind of takes away that Buck Showalter pressure. But in my mind, all I'm saying is if they play terrible last night, then Buck Showalter might get fired tomorrow. That's what I felt like I wanted to feel.
Mm-hmm.
But when I really sat back and thought about this, it made me realize that sometimes the owner speaks, because they rarely speak in any sport. Sometimes the owner speaks to deliver a message to the team. He delivers a message in a way that makes it crystal clear it's shape out or ship out.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, firsthand knowledge, experience with this, because I've told you this story. I don't know if anybody's heard it on WFAN.
That's a great one.
But back in 2003, when Coach Fossil was getting fired, it was a weird situation because Coach, we knew he was on the hot seat. He basically gets fired in week, 11 or 12, but he's going to finish out the season and just let it work itself out. Whatever happens, happens. But Wellington Mara came into our team meeting room, and he never spoke. Wellington was omnipresent. He'd always be out there. He'd have a little chair. He'd sit down right on the practice field, never sitting away from everybody, never said anything to anybody. He's in the meeting, and we're like, what the hell is going on? Dude, Wellington never talks to us. And he gets up there in his stoic way, and he basically says, and I'm paraphrasing and shortening it. It was a lot that he said, but he said, I want you to look to your left. I want you to look to your right. Two of you, out of the three of you guys, two of you aren't going to be here next year. And it was like, what the? It was put you on notice for the last month of the season. Now, I was sitting between Amani and Ike, and so we were like, all right, there's a lot of other guys going to be gone.
Yeah.
But he spoke directly to us. He didn't do it publicly like Steve Cohen's doing, but he spoke directly to us to let us know that we are all on notice. You better finish this season well because you're playing for your position on this team. And so when I hear that Steve Cohen is going to speak to the Mets, that's immediately what jumps into my head. That he's talking not to the fans, not to Buck, not to Billy Epler, because he has those conversations with Buck and Billy, I'm sure, on a regular basis, if not a daily basis, especially during this last month or so. He's talking to the players to tell them, we're paying you guys a lot of money collectively. Get your asses in gear. That's how I feel. That's what I believe that Steve Cohen is trying to do by speaking, which is, it's anomalous. Owners don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing this for a reason. And I think the reason is to put the players on notice.
Okay, so then why not do it privately? You can deliver the same message inside of the room and not have us hear it if it's solely for the players. That's why I really think it's for the fans.
I think public.
Now, ultimately, it could be for both.
Yeah, I think public pressure is, especially when guys are making as much money as a lot of the Mets players are, public pressure is more meaningful, right? It lets us know, media, fans, whoever is paying attention, that I Steve Cohen, care. I'm not just letting it happen, but I care. That's the biggest thing, but I think most importantly, he's telling these players, get your butts in gear.
Okay. It's funny how we interpret this a little differently. And I hear what you're saying, too. It's like I'm sitting here and like staunchly disagreeing.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. At the end of the day, we're probably both right. It's probably equal parts both for the players and for the fans.
But does it matter to placate the fan?
I think it does. In this situation, I do. I really do. Yeah, but think about what I said yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I started the show yesterday saying, and again, I like Steve Cohen, and I like what he's done for the Mets, how he's energized the fans, the money he's spending, and the profile that he's built, and I think ultimately Met fans are going to be rewarded with Steve Cohen. But I said yesterday to start the show, Steve Cohen's got to be heard from. Like, I don't mean in a George Steinbrenner-esque rant or anything that's out of character, but he must communicate and connect with the Met fan right now because the Mets are so substandard, so underachieving, and so in too many aspects unprofessional in terms of their performance, the gaffes on the bases, dropping pop-ups, meltdowns on the mound, blowing leads from the bullpen, Buck with a bad season, Epler's been a disaster. It's been an unmitigated circus. So I thought he really owed, certainly getting the players behind, no doubt, and try to inspire them almost with fear or the reality of the situation. But I thought he needed to talk to the fan. And I find it very ironic that, I'm not saying, trust me, by no means am I implying that I'm the impetus behind that. Please, nobody interpret that. But I'm not the only one saying it.
I heard Brandon and Tiki, and I got to stalk now.
Yes. But Met fans have been very loud on social media. They have been very loud on this radio station. And Steve Cohen is no dope. He is no dummy. He's not going to overreact. He's not going to, pull a page from a book that doesn't fit his personality and character. But there is no way he's tolerating this nonsense. But I'll tell you this, and this is my main point in terms of what I think he will say. I think it's for the fans. You disagree. I get that. But if he doesn't say the right thing today, it's actually worse. Because if he goes up there, I'm telling you, now coming off a win, it's a little bit easier. If they would have lost 7-2 last night and, given up a few bombs and Peterson get wrong. Oh, yeah, by the way, Peterson get demoted? That's interesting. So you pitch well, you get demoted. Very nice.
Optionality.
I'm sure it's just for the,
we know what we talk about, optionality.
Yes.
Come pitch for a day. We'll send you back down.
Billy's specialty, Billy Epler, optionality. But I think that if he takes the microphone later on today and he talks about either patience or full, unwavering conviction and belief in Buck and Billy and nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, saying nothing.
They need a little bit of a pound of flesh for the 3 months of bad baseball that has been shoved down the Mets fans' throats night after night. Haven't won a series this month, and there's no guarantee they're going to stop it now. They got to win the next two, and I wouldn't put money on the fact that they will. The Met fans need some energy, some angst. They need to feel the emotion coming in his own way, coming from Cohen today. Otherwise, it's counterproductive.
The worst thing that he can do is go in and basically repeat what Billy Epler said yesterday.
Absolutely.
If he comes in and says, we have great faith in Buck Showalter, there's going to be no changes here or there, regardless of what happens. He's going to take us to the promised land. That's what we hired him for. That's what we paid him for. If that's his message, basically miming exactly what Billy Epler said, Mets fans are not going to be excited.
Don't waste their time,
that.
Steve. Let me give you a little advice. Cancel it.
To your point, he might as well not say anything.
Yep. That's why I don't think that's happening, and that's why I believe that it's for the fans. All right, 877-337-6666. So, always interesting. You don't get this too often. You're right. Leon Rose never speaks. Woody Johnson, when he speaks, he doesn't speak aggressively. It's more in like, we got
our uniforms.
Yeah.
Uniform
colors. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, the Giants ownership lets their people do their job. They stay out of the way. This is relatively rare, and not just to our city, in modern pro sports, really outside of Mark Cuban and a few other aggressive owners, the profile is lower. Yeah. It's not like it was back in the day.
The only one that I think of that talks regularly is Jerry Jones.
And Mark Cuban.
And Cuban, too. But Jerry Jones, maybe that's a Texas thing. I don't know. But Jerry is de facto general manager of the team, so in some ways makes sense. But he also just loves media. He loves
hearing himself chirp.
Exactly. I mean, he has a radio spot every week.
Yeah.
So we know that Jerry likes to speak, but very few owners get out and talk.
It's a big moment for him.
It is.
He's got to strike the right chord. All right, let's get to you. 877-337-6666. And I guess the two questions would be, number one, what are you expecting to hear? And number two, do you think it's going to work? All right, Tiki and Tierney inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. And friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. First up, Richie on Long Island. What's going on, Rich?
I don't want to hear anything from Steve Cohen today. How about that one? Unless he's making changes and something's drastically going to be different about this team, which we both know that that's not going to happen. What in the world is somebody who has no baseball knowledge, never did anything in his life that's anything close to being athletic, or any type of decisions that have to do with anything to do with the sports world? Why do I care what he has to say to try to, basically gloss over his big mistake of, just listening to the wrong GM that he hired, his wags, like I always say that? Was he going to bring in Wendy to go talk to the players and sit them down in each session so they can get their mojo back? And go back out
Nice reference from Billions. There you
what
go.
We're talking about here. Axe is going to walk into the and he's going to spin doctor in front of all of us.
Yeah.
This is what we're up against. I mean, honestly, I what a high we had 2 years ago when he bought the team, right?
Yeah.
And then we had that year. And now we're at a point where we're in, not even, like Tiki keeps saying, it's not even July. And we're going to have the owner go out in front of every Met fan expecting to hear what?
All right, Rich, let me
Which is why, Rich, I think he's talking to the players.
But let me just give you, you might be right. We'll find out. Let me just at least present you with one script, all right? And you tell me as a Mets fan if you'd feel a little bit better after hearing this. When Steve Cohen takes the podium later on today at City, if he, in no uncertain terms, is direct and blunt and raw and says, utterly unacceptable, fans deserve better, if this doesn't change within whatever time frame that he presents, there will be wholesale changes. The entire franchise is on alert. Now, I don't know if he will say that, but if he does, you don't feel a little bit better about that?
No, I feel nothing from it.
Really?
You know why? Yeah, I mean, absolutely nothing. I think a lot of other Met fans will agree with me on it, because what is he going to do about it if he's not firing Epler, if he's not letting Buck go to at least try to breathe some new air into the clubhouse and the dugout? What is he doing outside of spin doctoring? Well, he's the fool. He doesn't like looking like the fool that spent $350 million because, he's a $20 billion robber baron. So he's going to go out there now and look like he is lost in space with his, fancy spaceship with no captain to flight it and no leader, like Tiki always says over and over again.
What?
There's no leader on this team. There's no leader on the team. And then what do we have on top of it? On top of it, the worst part of the season was when Diaz went down before the season even started. I knew, and a couple of my other friends knew, it's over.
Yeah.
Because we knew
Bad
that these
omen.
old men aren't going to make it to the sixth inning.
Yeah,
So,
bad
what are you going
omen.
to do if you can't bring him in?
Bad omen.
That's what I know.
Yeah, the Edwin Diaz injury was a bad
Cool,
omen,
Rich.
and then it kind of snowballed a little bit, especially with Scherzer injury, Verlander injury, Quintana, everything else that went on this offseason. But Rich brings up something that's very interesting, and it's a takeoff of why Steve Cohen is speaking. The owners rarely speak because there are other leaders that do it for him, whether it's the general manager, whether it's the head coach, or whether it's the alpha, best player, blah, 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 that's the CEO in the clubhouse, in the locker room, whether it's the quarterback in the NFL or the ace pitcher like CeCe Sabathia when he was with the New York Yankees. That guy usually speaks. By Steve Cohen announcing that he's going to speak before the game today, he's almost admitting, I don't have a leader that can speak for me, or that's going to speak in a way that is going to be acceptable to the fan base and maybe even to the clubhouse, right? It's almost really telling that he has to speak, because I go back to that Wellington Mara example, BT.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Fossil was fired. He was still coaching. He was our coach. God rest his soul. I love that man. He was still coaching. He wasn't our leader anymore. We were leaderless, right? We didn't have someone in charge of us. We were floating around figuring out what the hell's going on. I mean, our coach get fired with 4 games left. It's like, well, who's in charge here?
Did anybody step up at that point and assume more leadership than they had prior?
They did. Strahan did, certainly.
Yep.
I mean,
I figured you would say Strahan,
right?
yep.
And on our side, it was Amani and myself. Like, some of us took pride in saying, hey, young buck, whoever the second rookie, if you don't get your you-know-what right, we're all going to be gone.
Yeah.
So get it right. So it's almost telling about the leadership void with the Mets that Steve Cohen has to speak as well.
But we're not surprised about that because when we asked Hoff, as the devout Mets fan on the show, he told us it was Escobar.
Yeah, I know.
5 weeks ago. He said, who's the Mets leader?
And he got traded.
And he got shipped out. Oh, man. All right, 877-337-6666. Listen, at the end of the day, words don't really do a whole hell of a lot. But they could do damage if they're not presented properly. This could be, I don't know that it will be, this could be a colossal fail by Steve Cohen if he comes out and just drops a blanket reassurance. I've got faith in our people. We'll find a way to get it right. We're going to turn this. Nobody wants to hear that. Not after last year and what this year has been. It's got to be dripping with some heaviness. It's got to be dripping with some fear and some boldness. And, we'll see if Steve has it in him. We'll see in his own way. 877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney here on The Fan. We'll get back to your calls, and they are lined up, ready to rock, Met fans. Let's hear what you got on The Fan.